All right, let's do it live on a First Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. We are back. It is game week. We're loaded. I mean, this is an enormous piece show.
We don't even get to meet the Chiefs. We're
There's
so
no
loaded.
time. There's no time. I hope we'll have time to go to Home Depot. I don't know if we will.
I don't know. Big
Bed Bath
Saturday.
& Beyond. I have no idea. I mean, Mike Golic Sr. is on this program today.
That's
You're going
right.
to hear from Baker Mayfield on this program today. I'm looking into the 2 o'clock hour. I see Keyshawn Johnson
That's right.
is on this program today. I see that Paul DePodesta is in studio today
On
with
the phone.
us.
On the phone.
Okay, on the phone, but live.
with us, live.
Nevertheless.
Yes.
Took a little of my wind out of the sails there.
Well, I didn't.
But
mean
nevertheless.
to. And JOK.
JOK's here? I didn't
Yeah.
get that far in.
Yeah, 2:30. I mean,
Jeez.
Gibby, come in here and take a bow for the camera. Will
Yeah,
you?
the ball's not going to spike itself, Gibby.
I got to make up
And
for
we're on
her.
the radio.
Since I spent 24 hours yesterday getting roasted because
Oh man, people
everybody
were
and their
blaming.
brother
This was
my
not
fault.
the fault of Gibby.
No, Gibby was not.
No.
I would say this, that there are a few people, and this is in all sincerity, there are a few people more capable of troubleshooting that I've come across in 20 years in TV and radio,
Boy, I
more
like where you're
capable
going with this.
than Gibby.
Yeah.
Gibby is the troubleshoot master.
I appreciate that.
I mean it. I mean it sincerely. And that's a tough gig to know. All right, here's a problem, solution. Find another one. Doesn't solve it. Get me another one. Gibby.
What happened yesterday was as rare as when my Montana Grizzlies beat the Washington Huskies, beating a Power 5 conference team for the first time since 1920.
Rare.
That's how rare it is. That's 100
Yeah,
years,
that's
by
right.
the way, 101.
Yeah.
That'll never happen again. And it wasn't Gibby's fault. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
Way to go, Grizzlies.
That was a good job out of the Grizzlies.
My brother went there.
An emotional.
Yeah.
I know it was an emotional one for you. You know, the Houck family back there and coaching and, you know, him and his son embracing after. I know that was an emotional one for you. And you watched.
I shed a tear right into my victory bourbon.
Certainly do. Speaking of your home state, I saw that
The boys were out
The boys
there.
were out there.
Yeah, I told him.
Living their best life.
Maybe you guys want to check out that Yellowstone club.
Yeah.
Maybe, Tom Brady has a field there, I'm told. You could run some routes.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if memory serves, you had a brother who worked there and was
construct it.
part of the construction
That's right.
process.
Yeah.
What you have
You're
told
not hard
me,
of
and
remembering.
I actually am someone who listens when people talk. So I will
great quality.
relay this. They were not at Yellowstone, as in Yellowstone National Park.
That's right. No, it's the club.
It's
exclusive,
the club, the
exclusive.
Yellowstone Club,
Right.
which is actually located, if I remember correctly, in Big Sky, Montana, not Yellowstone National Park, which is
You're like an
primarily
elephant.
in Wyoming.
You're like an elephant with your retention.
Absorb.
That's right.
Yeah. So they were down there. Tom Brady, as you eloquently put it, and have said many times on this show, has a place there. That's why the field's there. If you follow Justin Timberlake and some of those people on the IG, on the social, you will find Brady throwing passes to them on that field.
On that very field.
Not
to mention, it was featured maybe in a golf match, perhaps.
I'm surprised actually that you got that wrong.
I did get it
considering
wrong.
your home
Sorry.
state.
Yeah,
That's
sad.
actually a different
golf
That's
course.
a Moonlight Basin.
Yeah.
This
Sad.
one they're not going to let.
sad.
You're not going to let any cameras on, as you know. You're not going to let any cameras on.
Well, we did get some nice golf documentation, by the way, from this
We
trip.
did. Yes.
Emily with a nice swing, to be frank. And I thought, you know who else had a nice swing? Odell Beckham Jr. had a very nice swing
Do you
barefoot.
remember that? It was a couple right when we acquired him, and he was picking up golf. And I want to say maybe you asked him about it when you did the first interview in here, or he hasn't been in here much, but the one time that we did,
Yeah.
I think you asked him about the golf and about how he just picked it up, and it was just picking up clubs, and he'd hit it straight 325 yards.
No, his club face was in a wonderful position.
It really
in that
was.
picture. No, that's a good.
It really was.
And he's barefoot, which I love.
Of course.
It's just touching nature. It's beautiful.
It really is.
What
It
a
really
place.
is. It's the place is.
Plus, you can hit
spectacular.
bombs with the mountain air. A little light goes
Oh,
a little
boy.
further. Yeah.
A lot of elevated tee boxes, so you can see it just flutter. Beautiful. Yeah, that was great. And hey, that's awesome to see. And it's one of those things where, you know, you've been talking about it this week, and I think it's worth noting. I really was hoping to draft Odell last night in my fantasy draft because I think that big things.
I think that he is, from fantasy standpoint, incredibly undervalued right now. I think he's going to have a great season, and it's just the command, and it's the chemistry. And I love seeing Austin Hooper there as well, and he noted that he used to spend a lot of time in the offseason with Matt Ryan down in Atlanta, which was a big part of his success there. And Austin Hooper, you know, being out there, that just shows you that's the camaraderie that's built and the brotherhood. This is a team that is not only very talented, it's a team that enjoys each other. And that goes a long way over the course of
Yeah.
this is going to be a long – if this goes the way that we want it to, we've got September, October, November, December, January, February. We've got – this is a long haul here. This is it is a marathon, not a sprint. But that camaraderie, those bonds go a long, long way.
You remember Michael Kendricks in here talking about that, the
That's what he
bond
said.
that they had in Philly, that's what separates, that the margin is so thin, and the teams who truly enjoy each other's company, who truly love being around each other, that can be the difference maker. The other thing that is apparent is Six is just such a natural leader. Like, people just follow.
Gravitate.
They are so willing to follow him. I would also say this, as more and more of those progressive commercials are leaking out, and I see it at a Hulu one as well, I'm saying it right now, at 20, what is he, 25, 26? He is right now as good a spokesperson and comedic timing as Peyton Manning. Right now. And Manning's in his 40s acing it. Like, Baker could host SNL.
26?
He could host SNL.
Well, we have to put the game plan in on Wednesday, so
Yeah.
I don't think he's available.
We're not doing that. Well, that's right. They a little bit of live. You know, they taped that show.
Yeah, that's right.
Taped that show on
That's
Wednesday.
right.
Never mind the.
There are some scenes that are going to get cut today, kids, for Saturday. Just telling you.
No, there aren't.
There are
some
hills
scenes
to
that
die
are-
on.
Zero scenes.
This is not a scene
There
to
are
die.
some scenes
There are
that are
hills
gonna
to
get
die on.
cut
Gibby.
today.
This is not a hill to die on, Gibby. This is not one of the great moments. One of the great moments. But
boy.
his comedic timing is stunning. And by the way, the First Lady's not bad either.
No.
Crushes it.
Yeah.
Just crushes it. Absolutely
It's
crushes
excellent work.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's get into the OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns, all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. In terms of the news today, there's been a myriad press conferences out there today with a lot of information. I think the things that are most interesting to me, Jadeveon Clowney out today with illness, but his coach said in his presser, not COVID-related, so that would be good news there that he doesn't sit well. And then Greg Newsome going to start, according to him in his press conference this morning.
Yeah, and not a surprise there. I think Greg Newsome's going to start. I think Malik McDowell is going to start. I think JOK will be a starter in nickel packages for this team. New players making big contributions, all making their NFL debuts and playing big roles for a team where we said, you don't even know if you need the rookies necessarily contribute. Well, these ones were so impressive that they have forced their way into opportunities to contribute. Greg Newsome will start opposite of Denzel Ward, and I imagine Troy Hill will be the first guy in as the nickel corner, that he is back at practice now. And they also, just a quick update on Clowney, he is expected back tomorrow.
Okay.
Which is good news there. But he's been getting all the work for the last couple of weeks, and the Browns – this is an exciting thing, and we're going to get into it when we start to do our offense versus their defense and, meet the Chiefs and that. But that matchup up front with they have 5 guys who did not play a snap for them on the offensive line a year ago. 3 of them are rookies, including a 6th-rounder this year starting at guard, dealing with Malik Jackson, potentially Malik McDowell. That's where we need to win this game. We need to bully them at the line of scrimmage, at the point of attack, and pressure Mahomes. Turns out if you don't pressure Pat Mahomes,
how's that go?
Doesn't work
Hey,
very
Z,
well
how's
for
it
you.
go if you don't pressure Patrick Mahomes?
It doesn't go very well. Patrick Mahomes is a darn good player, and you can't blitz him, so you got to just get –
You got to get home.
Yeah. By the way, this is just one of the stats I've been coming across in my preparation here. Mahomes last year against the blitz, 13 touchdowns, no pick, quarterback rating of 134. Best in the NFL in every one of the categories that I just mentioned. So he's pretty good there. Yeah,
Yep.
pretty good.
Yeah, he is. And this game on Sunday is so evenly matched across the board in terms of strength versus strength. In terms of, okay, maybe there's a little advantage here. You can't wait. I mean, the opposite conversation of the one that we're having about their offensive line is their receivers against our remade secondary.
Yep.
And that's the opposite of that conversation. And our new linebackers, what does that look like? Now, the difference is that and they may feel very good about their offensive line. They may. I feel very good about what we've done in the back 7.
Well, yeah,
I have a
you're
hard
bringing
time
in
with
guys of
known commodities.
Right. John Johnson
Right.
is very much a known commodity.
Right.
Troy Hill is a known commodity. Now, Greg Newsome is a rookie, but he is not a 6th-round pick.
No.
He is a 1st-round pick. And
Right.
so I think that there's a little bit of comfort in that. That's going to be the key. Listen, that's the bottom line. The Browns are going to need to, when we get into the keys to victory and all of those things, it's going to be about the Browns dominating and picking up chunk plays on offense, winning the turnover battle, and getting after Patrick Mahomes. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat them last year. You go into their losses, the theme in those losses, he was pressured over 30% of his dropbacks. That's what you got to do. They only lost 3 games, so it's sometimes it's kind of easy to find themes in those games. That's what you need to do. I mean, it's just kind of really that simple.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, they're as close to perfection as we've seen. They're as dynamic as we've seen. They are explosive as we've seen. They got everything that you want, and they got a kid who can throw it from anywhere in Mahomes. So it's why it's the 4:00 game on CBS. It's why it's Nance and Romo, and it's
top
why it's
game.
And by the way, this is what you all deserve. You've waited a long time for this type of moment. I remember, and it's so much more real feeling now than it has been. I remember the game, I want to say in 2008, opening with the Cowboys here. Do I have that right? 2008, coming off of the 10-6. There's a Cowboys opener here. I want to say in
right.
2008 when Braylon and those guys came back and the Cowboys slumped
them.
And you said, oh boy, well, that didn't feel real. This one's going to feel real, and it's going to be sustainable. It's going to be fun to kick this season off in style. I should mention to you that the Browns High School Football Game of the Week is back. It's presented by Ohio Cat, and it's in association with MedLiminal. Fans can vote now to determine this week's game on clevelandbrowns.com and at Browns on Twitter. Polls close Thursday at noon. This week's candidates are Talmadge against Highland, Medina against Stowe, Lakewood versus Rocky River, and Brush versus Mogador. The winning team from the selected game of the week receives $2,500 for their high school football program. Vote today. Get those in. As we mentioned,
Medina and Stowe, that's the big quarterback matchup.
That's right. Yeah, that's Drew Allard, the Penn State kid, 5-star quarterback who Ohio State is now pursuing. Because of the Quinn Ewers we don't need to get into all of it. But anyway, he's a 5-star, and the kid at Stowe's
I live
the
under
real
a
deal,
rock.
too.
I'm not going to get this. It's never going to be Ewers' time. He's out?
No. He just came in early, a year early, so they want to get another kid in the next class.
Gotcha.
So personally, even though you like the Bucks, I hope the kid stays at Penn State because I'd like to see that it's spread around a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep the talent around. It's more interesting.
You want to keep it interesting.
I want to keep it
I
interesting.
want a challenge.
Yeah, a little bit of challenge, a little bit in there.
Something.
Lots to get to.
Yeah.
Mike Golic Sr.'s on the show. Keyshawn Johnson's on the show. A little bit of Paul DePodesta on the show. Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa on the show. Loaded up. It's a First Friday miracle. Everybody's winning. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. When you're dedicated to bringing the best value to your customers, you've got to do a little work. And Northeast Factory Direct founded on the principle that quality shouldn't have to cost you a ton. They prove that every day. They keep the overhead low. They buy by the truckload, pass those savings on to you, the customer, when it comes to mattresses. They outdid themselves. Searched the entire country. They found the best factory, the best warranties, and now they have the latest technology in mattresses at a fraction of the cost for you. And Northeast Factory Direct's going to have you covered no matter the size. King, queen, full, twin, bunk, whatever you need, box springs and more. If it's mattress related, they got you covered. But unlike ordering online, you get to try it out before you buy it. That's a win. Check them out, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Our team back on the practice field today in preparation for Kansas City, and now that work will begin. Some news around the league as well. Le'Veon Bell signing onto the practice squad with the Ravens. That's a situation. It's a Central Ohio kid who was at one point as dangerous as any weapon out of the backfield in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's a situation where he tried to beat the system, and it
failed.
In the end, the system beat him.
I saw somebody on Twitter said he was the anti-Revis in terms of his ability to extract maximum value out of the National Football League.
Yeah.
It's a shame, and he just doesn't – it's such a quick shelf life at that position. And you – think about there was a time when Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley were the two most dominant backs in the National Football League by a wide margin. Neither can find a job. I know he's on the practice squad here, but that's because not only did they lose J.K. Dobbins, they just lost Justice Hill as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't really thrive in Kansas City's offense, so I don't expect much there.
No, and they need two backs. So Gus Edwards will be primary, and then they've got
Tyson Williams.
Something like that.
Williams. Pick him up in fantasy.
I do.
I did.
Yeah,
I picked him up.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to run for 800 yards. It could be more just based on that system. But, yeah, it's an example of how quick it can come and go. Unlike Todd Gurley, there's not a catastrophic injury with Le'Veon Bell. Didn't happen. But in other words, he whatever the path was, he finds himself on the Ravens. The latest example of the NFL is business is Latavius Murray, who had a great season last year with the Saints. The Saints said, hey, we really need you to take a pay cut after making the initial 53. And he said, I don't think so.
That's because if as a vested veteran, were he on the active roster for week one, that salary becomes guaranteed for the season.
There you go.
And so they said, take a pay cut. He said no. He could very well end up back there.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like
I don't
it.
think
Seems
so
like
because
hard
I think
feelings.
he is pretty upset about it. He's
Right.
a guy that can still play. I mean, he had one of
Yes.
his best seasons last year from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah, you wonder when I saw that after the Ravens did Bell, I thought, well, maybe that would have been, the better option. Not that I want to give them advice or
No,
good advice,
he's a lot more Gus Edwards than what I think they want is somebody else that can be a complement and more of a pass catcher as well.
Quarterback Carson Wentz, a full participant in practice for Indy, and he will play on Sunday. That to me, that's one of the more unknown teams. It's hard for me to get a feel for what – I have no idea what that's going to look like with him playing there. He was great as a rookie with this coach calling plays. They are loaded. They've got about everything that you want. I know they've had some injuries in camp, but they've got about everything that you want. It's just a matter of what can he be. And it's been an uneven camp for him in terms of his participation.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that goes. They've also lost T.Y. Hilton, at least for the early portion of the season, with that neck. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to get the opportunity to be the top target there for them. Nothing about this has felt smooth to me. Nothing about this inspires confidence to me with the way things have gone, at least in the early going for the Indianapolis Colts, which is a team that still has to feel like we can fall into second place in our division, I would think. Right? I mean, boy.
Just a
like is that Deion Sanders? Is that prime time just strutting right through here?
I'm blushing at
Goodness
Senior
gracious.
Swag.
I know.
So he's in a lovely Browns long sleeve tee, a team issue. He's in another cream pant. It looked to me like it looks like he's running back the cream pant a couple of days in a row,
like a tan jean. It looked like. Almost.
Yeah, like I want to say an ABC, maybe a Lulu ABC, something like that, a slim fit. And then that was an Air Max 1 in an orange colorway.
That's right. Or it might have been a little red, or a blood orange, perhaps.
I can't imagine it would be red. I feel like it had to be orange.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not.
He has to coordinate. There's no way he's going to
wear.
wear.
He's not.
No. I'm just saying the idea of Senior Swag in an Air Max red with a orange Browns helmet on the chest.
I think it's a dark orange. It's like the orange or orange. Yeah, like perhaps right behind you for those who are watching on the stream.
A little bit of an oranger orange, if you will.
If you will.
It could very well be that. Texans trading Bradley Roby to the Saints. He's suspended week 1. Did you watch Hard Knocks this year?
I watched 3 of the 5 episodes, not the most recent, but I did watch 2 episodes ago.
So it finished up last night.
I did not watch last night's.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened is you didn't get Mike McCarthy talking to the guys they cut, and that was on purpose. So they kept that out of it. There was really no buzz about Hard Knocks this season. None. Other than the drone shot that got a lot of attention of, Jerry's the Star or whatever they call it, his Jerry World town that he built down there. But other than that, there wasn't. Now this is what's interesting to me. This is America's team, world's team.
World's team, no big deal. Bigger.
World's bigger than
More
America.
inclusive.
Yep, open to everybody. Wrap
It's like
your arms around it.
if you were in a wrestling promotion,
Yeah,
the United States champion
that's right.
would be here. Still prestigious, still nice.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Good for you.
Yep.
But the world champion here, maybe even here. That's right.
You said it, brother.
Indeed, I did.
So you got Zeke, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Jarrah. You got McCarthy. Like, you got all of their and
principals.
You got the most
Parsons.
important people.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons prominently featured. CeeDee Lamb prominently featured. You got everything, and there was very little buzz about it. And you got him incredibly candid. Jerry was incredibly candid with not only his love for Whataburger, but also how upset he was that his son couldn't get on a chopper on time and screwed up the game day. At the end of the episode, it ends yesterday with him basically saying how desperate he is to win again.
Yeah.
And it's an incredibly open moment.
I think that's a fair way to put it. I think it is an open moment. There wasn't a whole lot about it, though, that was all that, honestly, all that compelling even when I watched it.
Why wasn't it? Is it
don't
because
know.
we have too much access to these people now? Because my point is, these are the most compelling people. And in some instances, the most compelling people in the NFL. But we have so much access to people now, I wonder if it just doesn't mean as much. We're so used to seeing all this.
And the players themselves are often controlling that access. So you know a lot about who these guys are as people. You know what they're doing. You know what they're into. Whereas before, you didn't know that. Now that guys have their own social medias, they basically have their own. Jarvis has his own Hard Knocks about Jarvis, which then covers a lot of, Odell and Baker and some of the things they've done. It's a different era, right? There was a time when you never got to peek behind the curtain. And the other thing is, I think we've peeked behind the curtain so many times. Like, now we know what's behind. We know.
And each team is peeking behind their own curtain and building the Browns. And a lot of the teams now have their own, behind-the-scenes shows that are going on. Certainly incredibly proud of ours and the work that's done on it and the quality that it is, Emmys and such. But we digress. I just think that you see so much now that it's not as special as it used to be. No.
When you went back to the Ravens, the early Ravens, the first time the Cowboys were on, that was you never got this.
No,
you never got those opportunities to see it. Now it's common, and so I don't know that there really is anything that could be that compelling about Hard Knocks, unless I think Jacksonville would have been great.
That's
I would
the
have
one
wanted
they
to
should have
see
went.
Urban Meyer and what that experience like him.
You nailed it. That's the one. That's the ticket. That's the meal ticket right there. That would have been fascinating theater. Did you see him last night on social?
The Patriots would have been interesting this year too, to see the Cam Mac Jones battle. Right. No, I did not see him on the social. I don't follow him.
I don't either. It was retweeted by people I do follow.
No.
So this game week, right? Game week. Yesterday, Barstool Ohio State tweets out, here's what happened the last time Ohio State beats Oregon. He quote tweets it. Best thing about being 14-1, ... national champions. Like, dude, it's week 1 of your NFL life. Why are you on social media?
Jags. What are you talking about?
Why you're coaching an NFL team? It's week 1. What are you doing on social media retweeting Ohio State Barstool? What are we doing, man?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
That
was
the most illuminating thing of Hard Knocks was the conversation between him and Mike
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Yeah, when I told you, and he's like, yeah, it's all football.
It's all football. Yeah.
Haven't been on a recruiting visit. the lovely Miss K in the office today. Oh, hello. A
Fantastic.
little bit of news out
Give
of
it to me.
Kansas
Give it to me
City.
straight.
The Honey Badger still in the COVID-19 protocol on Wednesday, not practicing, needs 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So still plenty of time for him to do that between now and Sunday. But as of now, he remains in the COVID protocols.
And seems to be, I would expect him there based on everything I'm hearing out of there from an asymptomatic, fully vaccinated, and so forth and so on.
That's right.
I can tell you what's coming up next, and it is a real treat, a real thrill. He is a legend, not just here locally, but nationally in the radio business. One of the best guys, too. He is Mike Golic. He will join us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my friends at Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's presents the other rules of football. Rule 1, serving cooked and ordered chicken finger meals always earn you extra points. And rule number 2, there is no penalty for excessive cane sauce dipping. Raising Cane's mobile app is ready to tackle all of your chicken finger game day needs when it comes to winning game day. Cane's rules. One love and a proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics. Go Bucks. And it's with a great deal of pleasure that we bring on a true legend, not just here in Cleveland, in the NFL, in college, but also in the radio business. The great Mike Golic joins us here, NFL and college analyst. He is our guy joining on the hotline. Mike, such a privilege to talk to you, my friend. This is our 75th season of Browns football that we're celebrating this year. And as a native Clevelander, just out of the gates here, you as a boy, the Browns meant what to you?
Well, first and foremost, I congratulate you guys on being hosts all 75 years. You guys have aged
quite a run.
Yeah. Listen, you know who was one of my favorite players growing up, Kelly, and I met him. I never met him when I was a kid. I never really went to games when we were kids. We played in a lot of sports, and we were usually doing our things. But I was a huge Leroy Kelly fan, and I probably met him, 2 decades ago, maybe. I'm not even sure when, at a Super Bowl, when you a lot of times meet former players, and it was even cool to me then, as an adult, as someone who played in the league, to meet a guy that I rooted for growing up. So, listen, I was like, every other Cleveland fan, wanted a championship team, and unfortunately couldn't get it, got close when, I was in college or then in the league with my brother Bob, going through the drive and through the fumble, which, makes everybody kind of shudder when you think of it. So I think where we are now, though, is so many of us from the past were hoping there would be a good team. Now there's no doubt the thought process with this team is it's just not acceptable to make the playoffs anymore. It's make the playoffs and make a good solid run. It's not, oh, thank God we got to the playoffs in the last, for the first time in the last millennium, or whatever it is. It's now the expectation is to be there. So there's a different group of people growing up as Browns fans that are seeing them become, at least on paper and hopefully on the field, one of the better teams, at least in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns, too, now we almost missed a generation for a few years there, but all of a sudden the Browns are cool to kids, and they're cool to players in this league, which I think maybe is the most telling. They want to come here. You look at some of the free agents who chose to come to the Browns, especially on that revamped defense, and I think that really signals a change in the perception around the league, Mike.
Oh, without question. I mean, a lot of teams stay bad because they can't get players, be it college and recruits or be it the pros. And if you're a bad team, you get a high draft pick, and then, you got to hold your breath and hope that draft pick, A, doesn't get hurt, and B, turns out to be worthy of where they were selected. And then it's about filling in the gaps with free agents. And, when money can get thrown around, if it's close to equal money, but there's a better team that's vying for someone's services, they may choose that other team. So it gets difficult that your record of bad play year in and year out can absolutely work against you in that way.
Mike Golic Sr., the great Mike Golic, joining us, Cleveland native and longtime Cleveland sports fan, of course. And it's interesting, Mike, when my wife's family's all from here, and even in the lead up to this season, when I talk to them and they ask about the Browns, I said, look, we're really good. I think we have a top 5 roster in the NFL, and they don't even want to hear it, Mike. They don't want to hear it because they're so snake bit and they don't want to hear it. Oh, no. Hopefully we could just make the – I'm like, no, the roster is really, really good. And it is something that you're in the beginning of a window here where you're going to be contenders. When you look at this roster, what do you see?
Well, I see, and let's also listen. Fans of a team, depending on how old they are, it's kind of like the Jets always feel like no matter what, if you take a step forward, you think you're taking 2 steps back. The Lions the same way. For the Browns, it had been that way. But now they saw success, not just with a decent record, but got a win in the playoffs. And I give management so much credit for building a roster that can get the job done, and not just for 1 year. They didn't put together a roster like Miami did years ago. You try and make an all-star team. And if it doesn't work for that 1 year, then you're left to pick up the pieces, and then you got to deal with salary cap issues. So the way they're building the team with good free agents, good draft picks, is the way to build a team. And the one group of people that don't care about a city's history is the players, because the players are out there playing. So as far as they're concerned, they understand that myself and a lot of others grew up with the mistake by the lake, the Cleveland Browns, they can't win, it's a bad organization. They know they're winning right now. They know it's going well, and they plan on winning. So they don't let the past eat at them like fans do, and I understand why fans do. So that's why there's the attitude on this team. And listen, Baker Mayfield is a high-energy guy. We've seen him play extremely well. We've seen him play bad at times. But he's extremely high energy. People gravitate toward him to a leader, and that's what you want in your quarterback. And, again, I can't say enough giving credit to management to putting the team together the way they have, because it's put together for the long haul, not the short haul.
And that's what's exciting about it, is that you've got leaders in this organization like Andrew Berry and Paul DePodesta and Kevin Stefanski coming from that same kind of mindset, that long-term horizon, but also short-term success. And the fact that they're not going to compromise. They've got their plan, and things need to fit into their plan. But you know what's great? We talked about the hype that's here with this team, surrounding this football team, is that hype comes to an end at one point because you get to play, and that Sunday is here. And the Browns, wow, what an opener. Browns at the two-time defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. What are you looking for in this game?
Well, I mean, listen, obviously the Brown fans are looking for, I think in that game, in the playoffs, they were down, 22-10 going into the fourth quarter. I know put another one on the board. But, this is one people always ask, can you use film from last year for film to this year? And I don't think X's and O-wise you can much. You'll study it. You'll look at it. What you look at is your one-on-one matchups, because for players that are the same on both sides that play against one another, that was a big thing for me. Game plans will let you know who wants to run what in certain situations. You figure all that out. But you watch the person you're playing against, and if it's the same person that they played against last year, you continue to watch them. How do they pass block? How do they pass rush? How do they cover as a corner? Where do they put their hands? What do they do with their eyes? Do they like to disguise, before the play on defense? So there's many things you can look at from an individual standpoint. Other than that, the Browns are going to go out there completely confident they can get the job done. Listen, Kansas City is and deserves to be the top-ranked team in the AFC. But right now, everything's on paper. They've proved it by, winning a Super Bowl and going to a Super Bowl, and obviously losing last year, but getting there. But everything's on paper right now. It's 0-0. That's why everybody can be a little bit uplifted at the fact that it's a brand-new season. And we've seen in the NFL, five teams that made the playoffs that don't, or five that didn't that do. Now, both these teams were obviously in the playoffs, and they're both expected to be there. I think these two and Buffalo are considered the top three in the AFC, and somebody else will surprise. We know we'll see that. But what I'm looking for out of the Browns this year, they have to improve their passing game. Your running game was excellent. You were top five, I think 3 in the league last year. Passing game's in the 20s. That's got to get better. I compare it kind of like to Arizona. Arizona has a really good rushing attack with a young quarterback in Kyler Murray, but their passing game, I believe, is in the 20s. That's got to get better. That has to get better, and not by, and I don't mean gadget plays, not by broken plays, not by Baker breaking the pocket and making a big play. You can't live on those. You can every now and then you can hit them, and they can be big plays. You can also get hurt by them, but by the main offense, the main drop back, the main half rolls, those kind of things that need to get consistent and work. So I'm looking for that pass game to really improve this year.
Talking to the great Mike Golic. You can catch Mike on College Football Saturday Night, powered by Learfield Sports all season long, including this Saturday night, 8:50 ESPN Cleveland, 7 o'clock Mississippi State down in Starkville taking on NC State. Mike, to see fans back at games in college football, it was almost an emotional experience for me. We're on the road, obviously, at Kansas City Arrowhead, which is stunning. Then next week here for our home opener with a full stand. We haven't had that. You forget how much you missed it. What was it like to you to see the full stands back in college and the NFL, what we anticipate seeing starting tomorrow night?
Oh, it's great. I mean, to be on the field before the game and not just hear players talking to one another and the echo of that, but actually fans in the stands, yelling stuff and seeing tailgating out in the parking lot. I mean, that's football. And I'll be calling some games, some NFL games this year as well. So I'll get to go back to those stadiums, and see the fans in there. It feels natural, but you know what I think it makes us all do is not take for granted that you go to a football game and it's a packed house, because we went through some real hell from a sports side. I mean, from the human side of it was horrific what we all went through, so I want everybody to make sure I'm putting it in the context of sport, of not having fans there, something we've always used to having and taking it for granted, and to just appreciate, that natural sound now of fans and not having a pipe-in sound of crowd noise and able to get it again is fantastic.
Mike, I know you're here today courtesy of USA Football, and for people who want to learn more about it, they can check out usafootball.com. This is an organization very important to our owners, to our whole company, but from the top down, Dee and Jimmy Haslam. I know that Callie Brownson's been involved. Our offensive line coach Scott Peters has been involved as well. Why is this so important to you, and why is this something that you wanted to be a part of, be on the board of?
Well, I think we all saw a few years ago when youth football kind of took a hit when the NFL was going through the CTE issues, and basically parents were had the fear factor of not wanting their kids in the game, and it was up to football, especially youth football, to make the game play it smarter and play it safer, and that's what USA Football has done. So my wife and I are very, very involved. Just like I'm so happy that Dee and Jimmy Haslam involved like they are. The Browns involved like they are as well. Chuck Kyle, the coach at St. Ignatius, how he's involved. But what USA Football is doing is giving more options. It's not flag football, right to tackle football. There's rookie ball. There's tackle bar football where you can be in pads, but you're not going all the way to the ground. So for parents, it's not like, and when I say parents, normally I mean moms. It's not like my kid plays flag or my kid is in tackle football where the difference in ability can be so great. Now there's other types to play, and you could fit your child into that, your boy or girl into that, and then they can get better along the way. So there's a few choices of it. The biggest thing is because they certify over 100,000 coaches, is for those coaches to be certified. Coaches are the lifeblood of this thing. They have to be able to buy into what USA Football is selling. We don't need the Oklahoma drills anymore. We don't need these toughness drills anymore. There's a fine line. We know football's tough, and we know you can learn some of that, but you don't need to do it in youth football as much as we've done in the past. We're smarter. We've learned more. We're learning to keep our head out of the game, and we're learning now to have different divisions in football, which is very key because there's different talent levels when kids are growing up. Because let's understand, I played in the NFL. All the players everybody's going to watch on Sunday, they all played youth football, every one of them. So the next group coming up in a number of years are all coming from the little leagues right now. So let's teach some better fundamentals, and let's make it a little safer along the way.
And you can get details on this at usafootball.com. I've got 3 young boys. I'm certified in this and coach them in this, and it's awesome. And for people who think that it's the way that it was 40 years ago, it's not. And there are all our alternatives. And the key is to keep them in it, right, Mike? You want to keep the kids in the game. You don't want them, you got to play tackle or else you can't play football. Wait a second. There's alternatives. Let's find them. Let's keep these kids. It's the greatest game in the world, Mike.
It's the greatest team game I have ever played. You learn so much about yourself when you get knocked on the ground and your eyes are watering and your nose bleeds. How do you react to that? And some of your teammate reaches down to help you up, and you do the same to them. You learn to work together. You learn such teamwork. You learn sacrifice. I mean, it is the greatest team sport that carries over into real life. And I understand a lot of kids that play the Little League, they may not play after that, or they may go to high school, they may not play after that. But some will go to college, and some will end up in the NFL. But along the way, let's remember to have some fun. Let's learn the fundamentals, and let's use the technology we have today to play smarter and to play safer. We can do that. It doesn't mean it's a soft society. Hell, when I was growing up, you didn't put a seatbelt on. We learned pretty damn quick you should wear a seatbelt when you're in a car. Right. So we can get smarter without saying, we're a soft society now. We've learned to do things better over the years, and that's what we're doing with youth football.
Mike, this is just a real pleasure for us to have you on. We thank you so much for your time and all the great work you're doing with USA Football. Appreciate you a great deal, sir.
All right, you guys got it. Thanks. Go Browns, huh?
Let's go.
Absolutely. Game week. You can't take the Cleveland out of him. No matter what. The great Mike Golic joining us. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, it is podium day here in Berea at the Cross Country Mortgage campus. Our quarterback, Baker Mayfield, at the podium. Some highlights from earlier today.
Baker, how much
You're down.
2 off seasons have CJ and Angie helped you get to the point where you want to get to physically?
Tremendously. I think, obviously getting your body right, that's the main goal in the off season, is to, get physically and mentally ready to go for the next season. But yeah, CJ, he's been great, unfortunately, but good for him. He took a job in Baton Rouge with LSU as an assistant strength coach, so happy for him. But he's been great for my routine in the off season, and Angie, diet-wise, has been unbelievable as well. I was fortunate enough she went to school with Emily and her older sister, so that was it's great to have somebody that knows that much about nutrition.
Now that you've had a season and now another training camp, with this new regimen, how do you see it manifesting on the field? Like, is it quickness? Is it velocity on the ball? Like, where do you really feel the difference?
I'd say a little bit more quick twitch. I think efficiency in any of my movements within the pocket, throwing mechanics, any of that. I think from point A to point B is going to happen quicker.
And then on top of that, Matt and Emily, Matt with CJ and
Mm-hmm.
Emily kind of helping you see through the diet, like that support.
Yeah, no, it definitely takes a village. And there's no doubt about that. I've never done it by myself. And so being able to have, going to workouts with your brother every morning during the off season is pretty fun. And then coming home and, having a home cooked meal is pretty nice too.
Hey Baker, the Chiefs are the gold standard in the conference. Is it a good team to, you're going to open up with somebody. Is it good to go against a team that good as kind of a measuring stick, see where you stand? Yeah,
obviously, you said it, the gold standard. They've been top of the top in the AFC for the past decade or so. So, it's, they're highly competitive, so it's good for us to play somebody like that. But, it's all about the next game. So we're playing the Chiefs this week, and then, hopefully, obviously, looking for a win, and then move on to the next one after that. And you try and improve each week. And so this week we're trying to just do our job.
Is there like a moment or a play that's kind of stuck with you from that game in January?
I think there's a bunch. I think we watched the tape quite a few times. Just seeing how we were in the beginning. Like I said, we got to do our job. Not try and do too much. That goes for everybody. Just do your job, fundamentally sound, and try and execute.
Can you tell us how Jedrick Wills has improved from last year? Because his words were, he said he was trash. I'm sure you don't believe that, but tell us how he has improved.
He said he was trash.
That's what he said.
I think a lot of that was him getting used to just footwork wise. He was a right tackle his whole life, switching over to the left side, getting used to the fundamentals. That's tricky for him. So I wouldn't say that he played as poorly as he would describe, but he's definitely a lot more comfortable. And then not having to learn a new system, and the terminology wise of him knowing all those calls, being comfortable with it, and to where he can just improve on the physical stuff is, you see a big difference, and he's ready to go.
What are some things you learned about that Kansas City defense from that playoff matchup, and how much of that do you think will carry over?
Yeah, they've been playing extremely well together for a while. They're forcing you to make mistakes. They're trying to do that, trying to get the ball out of your hands and make you take chances. So it's about, like I said, doing our job, taking care of the football. But they do a great job of, creating mismatches and trying to get guys free on blitzes.
Even though Odell wasn't, full go for much of training camp, it seemed like you guys got a ton of reps together this offseason as well, probably more so than at any point during an offseason since the trade. How is that going to help you guys this season?
Yeah, I think anytime you can get more reps, anytime you can go off experience and speaking the same language, I keep saying that, but it's just, you're going to continue to see improvements. And for us, getting those extra reps and, talking about the fine details and having time to do that, that's extremely vital for success.
Baker, with you guys playing, in front of mostly empty stadiums last year, if there were fans, there weren't many, what challenges do you face going into Arrowhead, and how are you guys prepared for it?
I think for us, obviously, Arrowhead is one of the more hostile environments in the whole league, and then them being back at full capacity, can only imagine how loud it's going to be. So we have to know this game plan in and out, to where if guys don't hear complete calls, they know exactly where to fill in the pieces, and we just have to be great in communication. Getting lined up quick, to where if we do have to change something and fix something, we can do it efficiently. And so for our guys, it's just knowing the plan and doing your job, and handling adversity, because it's not like we're going to be shocked by the environment. We know exactly what we're stepping into, so we just need to do our job.
Kind of off that, Baker, what's the excitement like, to use a college terminology? It's almost like a top 10 matchup between you guys and the Chiefs. What's the level of excitement for just the competition?
Yeah, obviously, anytime you're playing in the NFL, you're playing against the best of the best. For us, it's about playing the guy in front of us and doing our job. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's you erase. For us, we erased last year. We're trying to start from game zero and move on from there. So we're trying to evaluate ourselves based on how we do our job and execute.
Baker, you guys had a lot of success offensively after Odell's injury. People almost forget what he can do. Off of what you guys were able to accomplish last season, what element is he going to bring you guys now that he's almost back in the fold?
Yeah, obviously his catching ability speaks for itself, but I think people forget how truly fast he is. To be able to take the top off of defenses and safeties have to worry about that. And so teams are going to have to defend it and pick their poison because we're a physical run-first mentality team, and that's not going to change no matter who we have out there at receiver. But he adds an element to where teams are going to have to decide. What's
going to be the challenge for you, because his talent is so tantalizing, but you got a bunch of playmakers. You have a system that obviously has worked. So balancing, utilizing him with just running the offense that worked so well for you guys last year.
For me, it's just going through my reads. We're going to call the shots, and Kevin's going to get those dialed up when he feels comfortable in doing so. And for me, it's just going through the reads, not forcing anything. And much like the mentality I had second half of last year, just find the open guy and go through my reads, trust the system, and go through my progressions every play.
Baker, to what extent did you use that January 17th loss as fuel through the offseason?
I think that's always something that's always in the back of your mind. It's the last time you stepped on the field for real, and just knowing that you win that game, you're in the division or the conference championship, and the next game's Super Bowl. Just knowing how close you are to that, and just all the little things matter. So I think for us, as we continue to talk about our goal this week, is to do our job and focus on that, and it's all the little things that matter.
We've talked so many times about that bye week being crucial for you guys last year, and you guys kind of took off as an offense after it. With everybody back pretty much. Do you think you can hit the ground running kind of out of the gate this year?
That's the goal, and for us, like I keep saying, it's just about doing our job. We have the bread and butter, the fundamentals, the schemes that we know we're good at, and we need to keep building off of those and do those extremely well. And so, when we have our shots, take advantage, no negative plays. But yeah, it's about doing our job efficiently. So hopefully we do hit the ground running. That's the goal.
Hey, as far as the Chiefs, you mentioned before the gold standard. How much have they and what they've done on offense, Baker, over the last 5, 10 years, whatever, changed the way everybody plays?
I mean, they play
30.
I think they're so heavily based on mismatches and getting guys open and formatting stuff to look similar and have some creative ways, week in and week out to make different plays, but they all look similar. I think they're just very innovative in the way they call the game. And obviously Patrick's done a great job. And they have some great athletes that are making a lot of plays. So I think it's making teams get up and get lined up fast, pick their poison on how they want to defend them, and I think you see that around the league.
You're up. All right, great stuff from 6. Going to be a fun one, him and Patrick Mahomes on Sunday with the Chiefs and the Browns hooking up. Comfortable.
Yes.
Keyshawn Johnson up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. Call the lawyers at Elk & Elk for a clear answer as to what happened during your child's birth. Elk & Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO today. And with that, we head out on the hotline for a visit with NFL legend Keyshawn Johnson, co-host on ESPN Radio's morning show. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max Kellerman. You can hear it right here on 850 ESPN Cleveland, 6 to 9 every single weekday. Keith, thanks so much for taking some time with us this afternoon. And the NFL giving us a real treat right out of the gates. You opened with Tampa Bay and Dallas, of course, two of your former teams, certainly. But we have our eyes on the one on Sunday, Browns and Chiefs, two teams that frankly, Key, we think can win the Super Bowl. And a lot of fun with that one. When you look at that matchup, what jumps out?
Well, both teams can win the Super Bowl, right? Not just the Cleveland Browns.
That's what I said, both.
Yes, both, definitely.
I said both,
okay,
Key.
like
I said both.
Okay, my bad. I was like to say, wait a minute, I know this is the Cleveland Browns station, but somebody forgot about the Kansas City Chiefs.
No. Healthy respect.
It's safe.
You said I tried to set you up. See how I did that? I know you didn't say that. You mentioned the fact that what stands out. For me, it's going to be both sides of the skill positions, right? When you look at the Cleveland Browns and their three receivers and Higgins and OBJ and Landry versus the Mike Hugheses of the world in the secondary over there for them, and you look at that pairing with what they have at the receiver position at Tyreek Hill and Demarcus Robinson, and Miko Harmon, you start to look at that and start to say, okay, how does this fare on both sides of the ball? We know what the trenches look like. We know that Cleveland somewhat, not necessarily retooled their defensive line by bringing in Clowney, but also certainly Kansas City retooled their offensive line, and we know what that means for Patrick Mahomes to give him time to put the ball in the playmaker's hand. And as he does that, can the secondary hold up of John Johnson and Denzel Ward, and I'm assuming Greedy Williams will be in the lineup at some point in time along with the kid that they drafted in the first round. So as you start to look at those sort of things, for me it's the skill position on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Keyshawn, one of the guys that, not traditionally the tight ends aren't called skill guys, but Travis Kelce last year, 1,400 yards, tight end record, led the NFL in catches of more than 20 yards. I've said many times, I think he is the most valuable non-quarterback in the league because of what he does. What makes him so effective in your mind, and what advantage do they have having a guy like Travis Kelce on their offense?
Well, don't discount the Cleveland Browns tight end either. But I think you look at his ability to get open against mismatches, detaching him from the line of scrimmage. He is a tight end. At times he's running wide receiver routes, not just tight end, inline blocking, and then detaching and trying to match up on the linebacker. So I see that is extremely important.
Keyshawn Johnson, our guest, and you think about everything that Kansas City has, and they're the greatest show on grass right now going. It's hard to beat all the weapons that they have. But Andrew Berry, our general manager, went to work this offseason, and I think a lot of the things he did was in an effort to have some answers. Obviously, went toe-to-toe with them in a playoff game. Patrick Mahomes went out. Everybody remembers that well. But in terms of improving what we are defensively, and when I look at our defense now, Key, I see versatility. I see it with John Johnson, as you mentioned. Troy Hill comes over, maybe one of the best slot corners in the league. You draft Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the second-rounder out of Notre Dame, who could play a lot of things, kind of that missile position, kind of use him there. Greg Newsome, as you mentioned, coming in the first round out of Northwestern. A lot of these guys, similar body types. A lot of them can run. A lot of them can disguise. Look, you're never going to beat Patrick Mahomes, but you want to make him think a little bit. You add to that Jadeveon Clowney up front with Myles Garrett, a defensive line that looks to be much improved as well. From that perspective, does it at least look like, all right, this is a team that's got a puncher's chance because of what we've done defensively?
Absolutely, a puncher's chance if you didn't do anything defensively. One more year in a system allows teams and players to thrive. They're not out there thinking, even though you look at where they started last year, the beginning of the season, and where they ended at. Think about where they ended and where they could potentially start based on having more knowledge about what they're asked to do. So that plus couple that with what they did in the offseason, Cleveland is a much improved football team. I have Cleveland winning the division again this year, and I have them losing no more than 4 games.
We would certainly love that. Talking with Keyshawn Johnson. And Key, if the Browns are going to do that, a lot of it's going to have to come from this revamped defense. You mentioned some of the guys in the secondary, but up front, Jadeveon Clowney, Takk McKinley, Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell added to that room up front, along with the great Myles Garrett. And it seems if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you have to absolutely dominate their offensive line. They've got 5 new starters. Is that the key matchup in your mind for this game? And how good do you think this Browns front can be?
I still think when we're looking at matchups, it's going to be the skill position. But I also believe that in the trenches is important to protect Patrick Mahomes. We don't know what Takk McKinley is. We don't know what Jadeveon Clowney is. We kind of know what Myles Garrett is, but we're looking for Myles Garrett to take that next jump, right? He's jumped from 10 to 30, but I need him to go from the 30 to the 20 right now in his career. Where that you take that monster, oh my God. He has 23 sacks. He's getting ready to be the defensive player of the year. Oh, my God, yes. He may be the MVP of the NFL. You need a guy like that to all of a sudden become Von Miller, become J.J. Watt. He's not there yet. He's scratching on those sort of things. He's very dominant. He's very disruptive. But once he takes that Aaron Donald step, then I think you say, okay, this is getting ready to be something special.
Keyshawn Johnson, our guest. Keyshawn, I think sometimes when, and I even find myself doing it, I think sometimes we forget that Odell Beckham Jr. is on this team and healthy, and we've seen him in camp. We've seen him in the summer in mini camp. He looks great. He's flying around, making all of the cuts. He's rehabbed like crazy. The success that we had last year as a football team after the bye week was done primarily without Odell, and in part, and in conjunction with that, Keyshawn, without a true deep threat. And now you have that back. What can he be in a Kevin Stefanski, Kyle Shanahan, which is similarly what we're running here, that type of offense? What can he give this offense that it didn't have last year and yet was still pretty successful?
I don't know if you remember the Minnesota Vikings and Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen and how they pushed the ball down the field with Kirk Cousins a lot. I think he gives you that. He gives you that juice that you're looking for. Certainly a talented player, and I think they will bring him along slowly and utilize him in a way that he will be effective and help out the offense. But in the end, you don't want to get away from what you do. You just don't want to get away from Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, because that is the staple of what you do. It's portable. You can go to any stadium any time of the year and carry that offense with you and win football games. When you get away from doing what got you there, because all of a sudden you got a new shiny toy that you brought out the garage that needs some repairs on it, now all of a sudden you forget about the other trucks that was carrying the load for you.
When you think about taking on the Chiefs, do you want to lean on Chubb and Kareem Hunt and try to keep Pat Mahomes off the field as much as possible, or do you need to try to score and keep up with that football team?
Well, first of all, you want to try to stop them from scoring.
Yes.
Once you stop them from scoring, let's see where the game is at. If it's a ball control game, you got two backs that's capable of doing it. And you got a capable quarterback who in the second half of the season didn't turn the football over or make any mistakes that made you scratch your head. He certainly is starting to settle in, and I like Baker Mayfield settle in on the offensive side where I'm willing to give him the keys to the car and allow him to drive it with my tutelage and showing him the direction and making sure that he's going in the right direction, because he's certainly capable of doing those things. I think when you look at Baker early in his career, when you've had 4 head coaches, well, really only 3, because really only 1, because the other 3 guys just wore the uniform, didn't know what the hell they were doing coaching-wise. I think that you've got to trust Kevin Stefanski and that offensive system that they're going to put him and the rest of those guys in a position to continue to make noise in the AFC North.
Keyshawn, outside of our game, week 1, it's loaded. I mean, incredible games across the board. What's the one you're most excited? Is there a guy in a new place that you want to see what it looks like, a coaching change, a new acquisition? What are you most interested in week 1 if you had to pick just one thing?
I'm going to watch Jameis Winston against the Green Bay Packers. Everybody wanted to throw him to the wolves and treat him as though he forgot how to play football because he was allowed to throw the ball everywhere and had no control. I want to see what Sean Payton is, which I call a real quarterback whisperer. A guy who discovered Tony Romo, decided to sign Drew Brees. The rest was history there. Developed backup quarterbacks that's gone on and back up in other teams in this league. I want to watch that. I want to see what Jameis Winston is really like. The fact that Michael Thomas is going to be there with him. Can he lift the offense up? and still put points on the board, whether they win or lose? Can he be efficient? Will he not turn the football over? But that's all the key things that I'm looking for in this New Orleans opening day game against the Green Bay Packers.
Going to be a fun one. Always fun talking to you, Keith. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, guys.
All right, that's Keyshawn Johnson, co-host of ESPN Radio's Morning Show. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max Kellerman. You can listen to it weekdays right here on 850 ESPN Cleveland, 6 to 9 a.m. You're about ready to get smarter, kids.
Yes.
Paul DePodesta joining us next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. They got that local presence with the global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. This is a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Tom Daugherty, who's the Senior Vice President of Specialty Programs at the NIP Group. He said, quote, I have a saying about working with EOX Vantage. If you dream it, they can build it. We generate lots of ideas for them to carry out. They've implemented everything we've come up with. We brainstorm ways to innovate and improve our company. We use EOX Vantage for their infrastructure, coding, and programming capabilities, technological expertise, and experience working with global brands. We're thrilled about our partnership, end quote. Learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616. Again, that's 216-298-1616 for more. This is, and I know we'll score it on Friday. We'll handle our matchup. But talking to Keyshawn there are so many games this weekend that are great. So many.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts tomorrow
I got
night,
Paul on the line.
and it's all the way through, and it's going to be a fun opening weekend for sure. Let's talk to certainly the architect, one of the architects of everything that's good that's happened here. He is our chief strategy officer. He's the great Paul DePodesta. He's joining us now on the hotline. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time. What is this week like for you? You've done the cuts. You've presented the gift to Kevin Stefanski, and you say, well, away we go. Take me into your mind a little bit is on week one.
There's a little bit of calm before the storm element, to it.
Yes.
Obviously, training camp was busy. The whole off season was busy, and you get up to this point, and you feel like you've kind of done everything you can do. I was just on the phone this morning with Kevin and walking through some of the, an early version of the game plan, and just realizing, at this point, it's sort of out of our hands, and I think we're probably just as anxious as all of our fans, to get out there on Sunday and get going.
Paul, let's talk for a second just about the roster composition and the practice squad. What were some of the key decisions you made? And the one thing I'll reference on the practice squad, 3 defensive ends staying here on the practice squad: Curtis Weaver, Porter Gustin, who was with us, and then you brought in Odenigbo, who had actually been with the Browns back in 2019. What was maybe some of the thinking there, and just kind of, what that whole process and week was like for you?
Sure. Well, I think one of the things we tried to emphasize this year as we went into roster cuts, that it wasn't really about setting a 53 that was then going to be set in stone for the next 18 weeks or hopefully 23 weeks, or whatever it might be. The reality, it was our roster for week one, and that's it. And I think, we go back and look at all of our past rosters and the way these seasons play out. The reality is that the roster changes. It just does. You have injuries, performance, all sorts of different issues that come up. So we really wanted to make sure that we were sort of focused on the longer term piece of this, the full 18 plus weeks, as opposed to just, week one and saying, okay, this is going to be our roster for the next, the next 4 or 5 months. So some of our decisions going into that final cut had that as the background. So you point out the number of defensive ends. Well, through camp, Miles and Jadeveon didn't play in the preseason. Takk McKinley didn't play in the preseason. Joe Jackson did a really nice job, but at the end of the day, we know Porter Gustin's an NFL player. We were happy to be able to bring Odenigbo back to Cleveland. We think he's a legitimate NFL player. Curtis Weaver, we still have a lot of faith in. He hasn't, he didn't get to play at all last year, and then just got to play in the few preseason games this year at this level. So we still think there's good upside there. So there's sort of reasons to keep everybody around, and then we'll see how this thing plays out. But we certainly feel good about our depth in that spot.
I always joke with you about, the draft and your 500 billion scenarios that none had Greg Newsome and JOK come in. But I'll add another wrinkle to that scenario that I think you could not have foreseen. I don't know that anybody could have. The story of Malik McDowell, which I'm sure at the time you guys said, here's a talented guy. We'll take a chance on him. But, boy, an impressive preseason, and it certainly seems like he's slated to play a big role in these games that matter. It will be the first NFL snap for your rookies, but also Malik McDowell this Sunday in Kansas City. How do you guys kind of react to an emergence like that as it kind of takes shape right before your eyes and you see him throwing grown men around like children?
Well, it's exciting. He's earned it. He really has. I mean, it's an amazing story. It's been a tough road for him, I think, over the last 3-4 years. But boy, the the transformation that he's undergone, and then off the field first, and now what he's, on top of that, add in what he's been able to do on the field, and it's incredibly impressive. I was talking to our 2D line coaches before the game against Atlanta, and I just said, how does someone who hasn't played the game at all for 4 years and who's never played the game at this level walk into our training camp and do some of the things he's done?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just that like shouldn't be allowed. Right? It shouldn't
I'm
be
not
possible.
sure that Falcons center still knows what happened to him on that play.
So it is. It's remarkable. Look, we're excited for him, and we're excited for him for a lot of reasons. Not just, again, what he's able to do on the field, or even fulfilling that dream of playing an NFL snap, but I think sort of what it means for him. I think it's a great story, and hopefully this is just the beginning of it. We're pumped that he went out and earned it, and forced his way into this team. But I think, as AB told him after he had made the team, that hopefully this is just the start for him. He still has a long runway in front of him, and hopefully he can take advantage of that. And he'll certainly help us if he does.
Talking with Chief Strategy Officer Paul DePodesta on the program here on the hotline. Paul, when you're thinking about roster creation, you're thinking about all of those things, and I have to imagine you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, because they've won the AFC the last 2 years. They've got a young quarterback. They've got a young team. Certainly there are others that inspire you. First of all, you got to win your division, and then you got to do all these things. You think big picture. But to get Kansas City in the opener of this year, where you've had 2 off seasons with this group together. Obviously, you guys' plan was to attack the offense, the offensive line, and so forth in year one with AB and Kevin, and then this year the defense was attacked in the way you went about it. This litmus test with Kansas City, and the fact that it happens in week 1 of a 17-game season, it's a fun opener, isn't it?
Oh, of course. People are saying, they looked at our schedule this year and said, well, you've got Baltimore twice in a row later in the year. We kind of look at it as we've got Kansas City twice in a row. It was our last game in January, and then our first game this year. Look, it's a huge challenge. You pointed out the overhaul on defense. We have a bunch of new starters on defense. They haven't played together during the course of the preseason. So I would stop short of calling this game a litmus test. You're going against a really prolific offense. I think our defense is going to continue to grow as the year goes on. That said, I'm excited to see him out there, this Sunday, and hopefully being disruptive, and making life hopefully a little difficult for, we think is, or certainly has been, the class of our conference, the last couple of years. It's a tall task for us, but at the same time, I think it's a really good measuring stick, to see where we are. As of week 1. Last year we went into Baltimore. We got a rude reminder of where we were, and that we needed to be a lot better than that. And it was probably a worthwhile wake-up call. So I'm not hoping for that this Sunday, but I think regardless of what ends up happening, I do think it'll be a good barometer for us and say, okay, this is where we are as of today, but we know. Kevin will tell you right now, we're a long way from where we want to be, come December or January.
And that's when you want to be peaking anyway. Talk with Browns Chief Strategy Officer Paul DePodesta. And Paul, I know that goal number 1 is to win this division, right? That is the number 1 goal that gets you into the playoffs, a guaranteed spot in the dance. How much, though, and I remember talking to you after the game against the Chiefs, their speed, how much did that impact kind of the way that you wanted to reshape this defense? Get a line that can generate pressure with 4, which is if there is a potential Achilles heel for Pat Mahomes, and I'd say every quarterback on the planet, that's when you can get pressure with 4 guys, but also the speed that was added at all 3 levels of the defense, but specifically in that back 7. Is it nice to kind of get that look, knowing, look, this team's won the AFC 2 years in a row. They've been in the AFC Championship 3 years in a row. If we want to get to the ultimate goal, chances are we're going to have to play them twice this season, and some of the things maybe had to be done with them in mind.
Yeah, I think to some degree, yes. And you also pointed out the division. For a few years there, it was, okay, what do we have to do to be able to beat the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals? Yep. I still don't think we're there yet, even on that front in terms of what we want to be able to do. We certainly haven't been going 6-0 in our division, which is still the goal every year. So that's a lot of teams to keep in mind as you're trying to build your roster. How are you going to stop Lamar Jackson? Okay, you're going to stop Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger, et cetera. They come in sort of all shapes and sizes. So I think we went about building the defense that we thought was going to be most effective with our scheme, and I think that was the biggest change. Is that last year, certainly our offense was closer to being complete. We also had a really good feel for what Kevin wanted to do on offense. So the pieces we were able to add, we felt felt very confident that they were the right pieces to fit in the scheme. The defense, we had a good idea, but once we actually saw the defense play out, over the course of the season, I think our understanding of what that scheme really needed to be successful just grew and grew and grew. Now, you could probably say that the Kansas City game, in January maybe was the final punctuation mark, on that exercise. But I do think over the course of the we played 18 games last year. We got a much better feel for that, and then attacked the offseason accordingly. And again, you're never going to have a team that can shut down every type of offense and every type of player, et cetera. But we felt like for our scheme, what we want to do and how we want to, attack the offense, these were the types of players we wanted to go get. You already mentioned we're certainly longer and faster, than we were a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, it's been since 2019 since we have fans here, and obviously we're on the road this week at Arrowhead, which will be hostile. But our fans will be back in a couple of weeks. And you think about that game against Pittsburgh that was done with fans, but not a full house. This roster is really good. We like it a lot. What type of excitement is there for you to present this almost to our fan base and say, here, this is what we've done?
Well, I tell you what, last year, I'm trying to think our first home game, we had about 14,000 people there. And when they announced our players coming out of the tunnel, it almost felt like we had 60, right? I mean, it was that loud. There was that much energy. And it felt great. And it left all of us sitting there saying, could you imagine what this would be like if it actually were 60, right? So we've been waiting a year for that to happen, and really can't wait. Look, we were talking earlier this week. It's going to be a tough environment in Arrowhead this weekend. With a full house for them. We expect to have the same type of home field advantage. When we come home and play in week 2 and week 3, we think our fans are gonna blow it out, and we can't wait to sort of feed off that same energy.
I would say salivating. I think you'll get it.
You're going to get it. It's going to be mayhem. It's going to be bedlam there at First Energy Stadium, which will be great. Paul, every time you come on, we always tell everybody you're going to get a lot smarter. We get smarter when we talk to you every time. And I want to ask this question. If you don't feel comfortable answering it, that's fine also. But what's one stat? Take turnovers out of it. It doesn't have to be Kansas City game specific, but what's one stat that maybe isn't talked about enough that correlates to victory more often than perhaps people would have the perception that it does? Or a metric that you like to track for that? Okay, all right.
That's like when we asked about the Browns way.
Try
we asked Paul about the Browns way the last time. He was like, wait, I can't tell you what that is.
All right. Let's win the turnover battle then. We didn't lose a game when we did that.
That's a good one. No, the reality is, this is a very complex game, and there are lots of different factors in play in every week, and these things sort of all in one way or another fit together, right? So it's hard to just point at one thing. Sure. I mean, turnovers obviously is a great one, but it's hard to point at one thing and say, hey, if we're just better than these guys at this, then we're likely to win the game. It's really hard to do. It's really sort of a combination of a handful of different things. And that goes for offense, defense, special teams. But, and this is going to be far from revolutionary. But that really is the way we try to look at it. We think to ourselves, if we can win the game in all 3 of these phases, and we have ways of sort of tracking whether or not we feel like our offense is, I would say, performing above expectation. Same, and we call expectation sort of a winning performance. So we're able to say in a given game, let's say we win the game by 17 points, we can say, well, the offense was really the reason we won the game. The defense was pretty average and the special teams was good. In another game, we might win by 10 and say, well, the offense was actually below average. They had a losing performance, but the defense was spectacular. And yet again, the special teams was solid, or something like that. So we really try to look at it in each of those phases and try to determine, which groups are responsible and to what degree. And I think that's certainly really helpful for us not only as we plan through the course of the year, but then certainly as we go into each offseason and try to reshape the roster.
See, that's why
No,
you
you
make us all smarter,
See,
because you didn't give us any of the recipe, but you
Right.
told us, here's the framework that you should be thinking about here. I'm not going to give you the secret ingredients here. It's like the dog with the Bush's baked beans. You're not getting the
You're not
recipe,
getting it.
buddy.
No, just
But
enjoy the beans.
Just know these are good beans.
Paul, thanks for your time, man.
No problem. Anytime, guys.
He's the best.
great-
Our chief
the great
strategy
Depot.
officer, the great Paul DePodesta. So lucky to have that guy around. Football isn't football without friends. Watching Browns alone means no one going to hear your amazing in-game analysis. The same is true in gambling. Keep things social. Never gamble alone. It's one of the helpful, responsible gambling tips you'll find at keepitfunohio.com. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my guys at Weather Seal Home Services. Do you have a leaky roof, loose shingles, roof discoloration, Don't head to winter with a bad roof, guys. Call Weather Seal Home Services now. Get a beautiful new roof before season ends, plus choose between free gutters or gutter guard, either one. Also get up to 7 years, 0 interest with approved credit. Trust in Weather Seal to do the job right for the best price and the lowest monthly payments. Give them a call, 877-351-SEAL, or go to weathersealhomeservices.com. And now here's Z one-on-one with JOK.
Jeremiah, game.
You guys are down about 7 minutes.
Now the regular season here. What's kind of your vibe? How excited are you to play some meaningful football again?
Yeah, just perspective for me. Just trying to make sure I don't get too high or too low or too, to a place where I don't usually be at. So I'm just trying to keep my level head and take everything for what it is and making sure I take it day by day. So
I remember talking to you after the Jacksonville game when everybody was buzzing about your play. You weren't happy with it. You went back, you watched it, said it wasn't actually as bad as I thought. What's the biggest difference in you today from you who played against Jacksonville 4 weeks ago?
Mentality, just in terms of seeing the things that I need to see instead of seeing the whole thing. Just making sure I have attention to detail, laser focus on the things I need to focus on. In the Jacksonville game, I was kind of looking at everything, trying to make the most plays and doing, all the things that, a player would want to do, but just trying to do my job. More in detail. So that's really what I'm focusing on this game and what I've been focusing on since the Jacksonville game.
Yeah, remember you said sometimes when you see too much, you see too little. And I thought that was a good note. So you're able to kind of focus in now and see the individual trees and maybe not the whole forest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
When you think about this Kansas City team, pretty big challenge, one of the best offenses in the National Football League. When you've kind of gone through and done your studying of them, what's jumped out to you?
Speed. For sure. Agility, the way the guys shift and move and things like that. They try to throw a lot at you in terms of the motions, in terms of the look-offs from the quarterback and the certain moves that the receivers and the tight ends do. So they're all about kind of a facade. They're trying to show you something that may not be what it is to ultimately be successful. So that's just something, again, has to deal with making sure that you look at what you need to look at and be patient with things because this team will throw a lot at you. So,
is that one of the biggest changes from maybe the college game to the pro game? They call it, the window dressing, where we're going to run one play, but we're going to give you 38 different looks of how we ultimately get to that play. Yeah,
eye candy. A lot of eye candy. They want you to bite at this one thing, and let me watch my words in here because somebody will watch this and pause me on it, but. I'll put that in there, but
you're fine.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's really the big difference is the disguise and the eye candy.
When did you guys kind of start getting into this preparation for the Chiefs? When you wrapped up training camp, said, okay, now we're full on, all focus on Kansas City.
It was really about Monday, I believe. Really about Monday. We did a little bit kind of over before we left. I did a lot kind of before in that first week before we left, but we was kind of like still doing brown on brown type of deal, trying to correct those mistakes that we made, and we still watched the Chiefs and things like that. So a little while now.
How excited are you? I know you said you were ready, and I know some people took that to mean you were calling people what you were not doing, and we all know that. But just how excited are you? And of course you're gonna be ready. You're a confident guy. You're not here to not be ready.
Yeah, it's like I told the media. I mean, nobody's gonna get up there and say, hey, I'm not gonna be ready. You're going to say you're ready. Not going to make any specifics like they said I made, but
right.
Everybody believes that they're ready. Every team believes that they're ready, and you never truly know until the game time comes. So, like I said, we'll be ready, and we're looking forward to seeing just how much we are ready. So.
What's it like in that linebacker room right now? Because that's one of the positions on this defense where there is going to be a lot of situational specific packages that come out. How's kind of that camaraderie, everybody working together to try to put together the best product that they can out of your room?
Yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance in the linebacker room. We try to feed off of each other's energy. We try to feed off of each other's knowledge and, the experience that these guys have. I try to feed off of what they have. They try to feed off of some of the stuff I may have that maybe, which is, not too much because they see a lot of football, but, I do what I can. They do what they can. And we all kind of get off of each other in terms of being an anchor for each other and being an anchor for the defense. So that's really our mindset, just being the leaders for this game and ultimately being the voice and being the person that the guys can rely on and things like that. So,
how far would you say this defense has come? Because this is, maybe in the last 10 days or so, you've gotten at least as close to full strength as you guys have been probably since the beginning of training camp when you weren't there. So for you, this is probably the closest this D's been to full strength. What's it like being able to look around and see this as it was maybe envisioned?
Yeah, it is a little different, seeing everybody kind of like out here and it's like, okay, wow, the safety is here, the D-line here, So we got everybody and, it is a good feeling to be able to know that, you have guys that are just as talented as you playing beside you and guys that are ready to go get it just as, like you are. And, it's when you get out there, it's like, all right, it's almost like you're forced to do your part. You must do your part because, everybody else is. So.
When you think about the fact that you're going to be out there quite a bit on Sunday, Greg Newsome's going to be out there quite a bit on Sunday. I'm sure there'll be other contributions from that rookie class, but is that special to you to be able to have Greg on the same side of the ball as you two guys who came in together and, onto a very good team? You didn't necessarily need anything from the rookie class this year, but you guys have said, no, you're going to make sure you get us out there. Is there something special about that in your relationship with Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. We always try to hit on the understanding that we have to contribute in some ways. We always contribute. We always contribute. That's the thing. So when we get out there, that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to be something that we're not. We're just trying to, fit into our roles and do as much as we can, along with special teams as well. I know special teams, we do special teams as well. We love kind of competing out there for that jobs too. So it's going to be something on both sides and definitely special teams too. So.
I remember you talking about Coach Poling. Did you ever get a hold of you after that Jacksonville game when you said that you forgot you just missed the block because you forgot what your technique there?
Yeah. It was a touchback, so nobody really kind of keyed in on it. So I got off there. So so we good on that one.
Excellent. Well, we're excited to have you. I'm sure that you probably can't wait. Sunday can't
come back in 15,
but excited to see you out there. Proud that you're obviously a member of our football team and looking forward to see what you can do in your first NFL game against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it'll be something. Appreciate that.
It will. All right, Jeremiah. Thank you very much.
You hear him. You hear when you interview him, and you hear him talk, and you watch him play, and he's one of those guys that you just say, God willing, health standpoint, is going to be a rock star in this organization for a long, long time. Like, there are going to be kids in that jersey for a long time. He just checks every box.
That's right. And I'm very excited to see what he is able to do now that he will be unleashed this Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And we talked a little about his eyes and that quote that he gave us in the production meeting before the Giants game, which was, sometimes when you see too much, you see too little. And I said, this guy, he just has a lot of these sayings
as a rookie who says
that are great. And so it's about his eyes. And he noted there, we were talking about it earlier, and Baker talked about it. This is a Chiefs team that has a lot of their plays they run, but they'll give you 88 different looks. He called it eye candy. Joe Thomas calls that the window dressing.
Yep.
With the shifts and the motions and the alignments and the personnel groupings. And so he said they try to distract your eyes. That's what they're trying to get you to focus like a magician, focus on the wrong thing. And so for a young player, I'm sure they will get him a time or two. But if he can be right more often than not, I think the Browns will be in a good spot with him out there defensively. And I expect to see him play a lot, especially in our nickel and in sub packages.
When we had Paul on, I asked a question kind of leading in this way, and then you asked it in a more direct way. When you think about what's been done here with that team in mind.
Yep.
Because that's it, right? Like, yeah, the objective is win your division, win the AFC, win the Super Bowl. Well, win your division, you're going to have to beat Baltimore, going to have to beat Pittsburgh, going to have to deal with Joe Burrow. So what type of defense do you need for all that? But then big picture, you've got this thing in Kansas City that you're going to have to contend with. Now, you're either going to have to contend with them. You're going to have to contend with them in the AFC Championship game if you're a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. I think about Manning when he was with the Colts, Belichick when he was with the Patriots, with Brady, and you think about you knew you were going to have to see them, and that's what we aspire to be, right?
Yes.
Kansas City is that. We aspire to be that. We aspire to be the worthy adversary for them year in and year out, and them for us. And so when I looked at what was gone on this offseason, and Paul acknowledged it, when you think about what was done this offseason, you can't help but think of Kansas City. You can't help it.
And he said it, once we got a kind of an idea of watching this defense for a full season, we knew kind of what direction we had to go. But He said that finale right there really drove the point home. And it's no surprise that we are longer and faster than we were before. It's also no surprise that there was a significant investment made up front to be able to get home organically without blitzing, because when you can get home without blitzing, quarterbacks struggle. Take Patrick Mahomes, for example. Patrick Mahomes, who we'd all agree is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, if he is not the best quarterback in the National Football League. But he has, like every quarterback, the one Achilles heel. When he doesn't have pressure, he completes over 70% of his passes. His quarterback rating's 130. When he's under pressure, not from a blitz, he completes 48% of his passes. His quarterback rating drops to 70. You can beat him with those numbers. You can't beat him when he's just sitting back there and dominating you.
No.
So that's
the
key.
Look at the great teams of the last 4 or 5 years, and you think about how San Francisco was built.
Up front.
L.A. is a one-man wrecking crew with Donald, but they had it there too. They get to a Super Bowl with that. You think about what Tampa Bay did last year, what they were able to do up front.
Yes.
That's where it starts. It's that defensive line. It's pressure. There are so many things that are done to enhance the offensive experience, both the way the game is officiated, the way that it's coached, the rules that have been changed. The only chance you have is to get home with 4 and to provide some level of confusion right before snap. So that's the versatility. You think about what we did this offseason, the versatility in the back 7. You just heard from Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and the emphasis up front, getting home.
There are going to be formations on Sunday, I will guarantee you, where we are going to line up Malik Jackson kind of over the center with a heavy emphasis on this side, probably Clowney over a guard, and then Miles over the tackle. And they're going to do that against rookie Creed Humphrey, rookie Trey Smith, and rookie Lucas Niang. And they're going to say, okay, what are you going to do to stop this?
That's right.
I like our chances when we've got a 6th-round rookie with Myles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney one-on-one. Or you'll put those guys on the other side, slide the protection there, and leave him one-on-one with Takk McKinley. I like our chances there. I think we have an opportunity to really dominate up front, and we're going to have to. It's not that I'm just saying that's what I want to do. You want to just boil this game down to one thing, and assuming we're neutral in the turnover battle with them, we don't necessarily give the game away. If we dominate up front like I believe that we can be capable of against this offensive line, we are going to win this football game. If we can get a bunch of sacks, get the pressure rate over 30% for Pat Mahomes, they lost 3 times last year. That's it.
Yep.
2 of those 3 games, the pressure rate was over 30%.
What do you make of the bloodshed that's been?
I'm saddened by it, but that fridge.
Gibby.
That fridge.
Gibby's fridge sliced me.
That fridge.
Bloodshed, Gibby.
Plays no favorites. Gibby's bled from that fridge. That
Gibby,
thing,
you bled?
oh my! It's like a razor.
It is a razor blade. Just sliced it.
I didn't realize you'd done that.
Sliced it, Gibby.
You were like, hey, little malfunction.
I've done it.
You've done it. I realized we had a gusher.
We got a gusher, Coach.
You've done it. I've done it.
We've
all done it.
Left pointer. You're safe. Still got the right. You're safe.
The right's the more important one.
Yeah, and it's not a thumb.
Yeah.
So we're all right. If it has to be amputated, we'll move through it.
Beware when opening the fridge.
Right.
And by the way,
thumb's important.
We tried to fix it, and
it's what separates
the
us from
screw
animals.
and part of the handle is in there. I'm like, I don't know how this happened during the pandemic when I came back to.
Right, we were all gone.
We were not here.
How did that happen when no one
this
was
is
here?
broken, but
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Sabotage. Unbelievable. So much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. And be sure to catch the Browns preview show tonight at 7 on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns radio network. John Johnson and the voice will join the voice of the Browns, Jim Donovan, along with Ken and Gerard for the show. That's at 7 on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns radio network, Z. You texted me this morning with some emotional images in the area as well, and paying proper homage this afternoon, my friend.
Yeah, this morning when I was driving into Berea, I saw a massive, car parade. I don't even know what I call it. Motorcade. Thank you. Massive motorcade. And one of our good friends on the show, Matthew Previtz, was part of the team that was providing for the honorable transfer of Corpsman Max Soviak, who was the sole Navy sailor who passed away in Afghanistan last week. And just seeing it and the lights and every overpass was crowded. And the images he sent us as they brought it down. And as he said, it was just, he's from Berlin Heights, a Browns fan, football player, and gone way too soon. But as Mr. Previtz told us, family strength is awe-inspiring, and a great young American, Max Soviak. So keep him in your thoughts and his family in your thoughts today.
In honor of them today on the fine program. We're back.